be live. Hello, everyone. This is Jeff Ellis, and I'm joined by Taylor Blake Ward. Both of us are Scout.com, and we're here to talk about the draft. It's been a good May was our last one, so it's been almost half a year since our last podcast. So we wanted to sit down and get one of these out real quick. Our focus today is everyone's kind of concentrating on the top of the draft, but Taylor and I thought it might be fun to kind of look at some other players who we are very high on or stand out to us who aren't in that discussion right now as top 10 possible picks. With that, I'll kick it over to Taylor.
Hey guys, really happy to have you listening in. A lot has changed in the last 6 months. Jeff, you have a child.
Yeah,
that's probably the big one.
Yeah, if you hear a baby in the background, she's not even a month old yet, so they can be loud.
That is Tennyson, right?
Yes, Tennyson.
Yeah, Tennyson Ellis. And
you're getting married next month, so it's just changes all around.
Yeah, life is just drastically changing, ain't it? And but we're definitely going to try and keep providing you guys with strong content. Obviously, the draft is a good, couple months away, over a half a year away. But we figured we'd kind of start off here. Jeff, we were going to talk about prep players first, I believe. I don't know if you want to kick it off or you want me to go. I've got a few names here that I'm excited to talk about.
I think when it comes down to things like this, you're often stronger on the prep stuff, especially early on. So why don't you lead us off, and then I can kick in with the guys that I'm kind of watching for.
Fair enough. Just three guys, obviously, that came to name when we first talked about this draft is Ethan Hankins, Bryce Terang, Jared Kalenis. Kalenis is my personal favorite out of everyone in this entire draft, but two guys out here in California I get to see pretty regularly. One is Cole Winn. He transferred from Colorado out here to Orange Lutheran High School in Orange or Anaheim, California area. He's a right-handed pitcher. Same school that Garrett Cole went to. Cole Winn, really an intriguing guy. Has a really good curveball. I think some scouts are grading as a plus. He has a slider to go behind it, which is about an average or better pitch. He's got a changeup in the works, a typical high school changeup kind of thing. Works a really lively fastball that gets on the hitters really quick. 91, 92, can get it up to the 94, 95 range. Cole Winn, probably a second-round pick. One of those high school arms, a righty, so there's a little bit of intimidation there. But one of my guys that I'm really excited to see. I'm going to see him pitch in less than 20 days here. So it'll be fun to kind of get that content out to you guys. Jeff, I've got another guy out here in California, but I want to throw it over to you. Who are you excited about?
My guy, I'm really intrigued with Alek Thomas, the outfielder from Chicago. He's from Chicago. We don't often see a lot of kids from the city. And one of the reasons he's from the straight Chicago is that his dad is the strength and conditioning coach for the White Sox. So you're talking about someone who's kind of grown up in and around the game, and has a major league connection. On top of that, he is committed to TCU as a baseball and a football player. He's a quarterback. You always kind of like to see the quarterbacks when it comes to baseball. So he's a dual sport athlete, connections to the game of baseball, connections to the majors. And, he's a kid who's not even 17 and a half yet. And you look at he's not the biggest kid. That'll be his knock. But he can run, he can hit. It's just, as I said, his dad is strength and conditioning coach for a Major League Baseball team. So he is quite strong himself. There's some power potential, even though he's a sub 6 foot guy. So we're hoping, I'm hoping he doesn't get to TCU. I'd like to see him get taken by someone. I'm curious to see where he'll go. But, like I said, dual sport athlete. Dad is, someone who works in the game and it knows about, what a major league body needs to look like. So he's one of those guys. He's not maybe getting the run of even a Jared Kalenic, who, I mean, those two are relatively close to each other in terms of just geography. But I think he's definitely a name to watch with, like I said, combination of ties to the game, youth, and just pure athleticism.
Speaking of pure athleticism, there's a kid out here, and Jeff, when I was explaining him to you, we kind of laughed about it. He is Brian Dozier from the left side, but he's a very athletic outfielder. So, but his name is Preston Hartzell. He won the Perfect Game All-American Home Run Derby down in San Diego. Really just a loud bat from the left side. A lot of power, but there's a lot of question about his hit tool. He's got multiple hand drags in his swing where he loads with his hands and reloads again. But strong kid, really athletic. He's down at Corona Del Mar High School, Southern California commit. Obviously, Southern California, or USC, as it's known across the country, is really pulling a lot of good kids. I think Hartzell's a kid that could end up at Southern Cal, but at the same time, one of those guys I really enjoy watching tape on. I like seeing everything about him. Like I said, the scouts are a little iffy on that hit tool, but definite athlete who's going to be able to play the outfield well.
I have a pair of other guys that I know we've talked about, when we're trying to set up our boards and stuff, that we are both very high on. I think I'm going to start with my local kid, which is Nick Northcutt, the third baseman from Mason, Ohio. Not the biggest kid. He's kind of, I guess I'm targeting sub 6 foot guys with these first two. But he's 6 feet, he hits. He is probably, I believe, if I do my math right, he'll be 19 on draft day, which is a knock. The fact that he's only 6 feet is a knock. You're looking at a guy who's a really good student, committed to Vanderbilt. Just everywhere he's gone, he's hit. And the arm is a no doubt for third base. He should be able to stick there. I think there's a chance for above average hit and power. Good defender, strong arm. You don't want to put any labels on anyone, but there's definitely a chance for an above average starter. And it's kind of interesting to read articles on him. I know last year, I think it was, Hudson Blins. I'm going to butcher Hudson's last name. Everyone knows who Hudson is who listens to us. Hudson wrote a great article on him. About how
big the Diamondbacks now, buddy.
Yeah, I know
he's no longer. Yeah, he's a good. Yeah. We want to wish, just while we have the quick moment, I'm sorry to cut you off, Jeff.
No.
Congratulations to Hudson. He's been a great guy to cover the draft. Did an outstanding job at Baseball America, who we have a lot of respect for. We have a lot of respect for Baseball America, and Hudson really was the best. And if Hudson, you tune in, we were really happy to see that you got picked up by the Diamondbacks, and we wish you well, buddy.
Great addition for the Diamondbacks. But Hudson wrote a great piece because Nick's dad is a college professor in music at the University of Cincinnati. And that his mother, I believe, is also a musician. I could be wrong, but it's, baseball. The first line, I just opened the article, baseball is about rhythm. And then he kind of uses that for the whole article. But, Nick's took kind of like a very analytical approach to baseball. I felt like when I read up about him and just, I need to work on this. This is how I can work on it. He's got the father who's the professor. But, again, he's not big. He's not a great athlete. And he is, I believe, going to be 19 on draft day, which are three big X's. But everywhere he's gone, he showed up and he can hit. And I don't think there's any doubt about his position. Ohio has been kind of weak on prep talent the past few years. We did see quite a few guys get drafted last year. I don't think any of them were until after the 10th round. Austin Becker is kind of the bigger name in state this year, but Northcutt is not someone to sleep on.
There's one kid that, Jeff, I'm going to cheat a little bit. You brought him up. I think we were talking yesterday or the day before about him. Mateo Gil. And he's the son of Benji Gill, the long-term kind of utility guy, played, I think, 8 years in the majors. But his son is Mateo Gil out of Keller, Texas. Guy that's a two-way guy. He's worked his way up into the low 90s with his fastball. He's tall enough to pitch, 6'2". He's a little taller than his dad. Fastball is kind of all he works with right now, but he's a kid that can stick at shortstop. A lot like his dad. The bat, I just watched some tape on him, and it looks really good. He's got a really fluid and nice swing. Makes some he's more of a contact-oriented kid, but he's also just turned 17 in August, I believe. A kid that I think we're both really excited about.
Yeah, that great combination of bloodlines, position, and youth. Another guy staying in Texas that we have talked about a few times that we are very high on, and he's not in that like top tier of pitchers that you and I both really like, is Adam Kloffenstein.
Yeah.
Big righty. He's a low 90s guy. He's even younger than Mateo Gil. I think he just turned 17 like last month. He's another TCU recruit, so obviously I'm very bullish on this TCU class, and I'm sure the head coaches there have no idea who I am, but if they did, they'd tell me to be quiet because they want these kids to get there. But I mean, it's just you look at him and you see all the basics for at least a mid-rotation starter, possibly more. Just to me, like 6'5" is the perfect size for a pitcher. I feel like when they start to get a little taller, I start to worry about mechanics. You get a little smaller, you get worried about running down. That's like, my dream pitcher height is like 6'4", 6'5". So he's got the height, he's got the youth, he's a good athlete. It's a clean delivery. There's a change for his breaking balls. Everything's kind of there. I mean, he just, like your typical prep arm, he needs to develop it, but you can see everything has already been started. It's like when you're working on dinner or something and you get everything prepared before you bring it together. I mean, everything is in place. You get him with some coaching, and as long as he stays healthy, I don't see how he is not at least number 4 or 5 starter with the chance for even a 2-3. I really like what is present in there. He's a pitchability guy with upside, and when you add in the athleticism, which I think is really important for pitchers staying healthy, I just see an arm who very likely is going to rise throughout this whole process. A team like the Cleveland Indians, who love Texas, love youth, love guys like this. I was all over them, and Issa Lacey last year, who they didn't draft in the signable rounds, but they drafted late. I think I can safely say nobody knows the Indians draft better than myself outside of someone in the organization. And I'm not someone prone to hyperbole. If anything, I will tend to not try to say I know as much, but the Indians, I feel very strong. This is like, he is the cut from the cloth that I've seen them go for time and time again.
I feel like you were just Donald Trump there, buddy. I swear I'm humble.
I mean, I feel like I am. I don't feel like I am now. I feel like that is the one area with where I feel confident.
Well, Jeff, I mean, we just went back-to-back Texas, so I do have to play a little song for you. I'm not sure. Jeff, can you hear me right now or no?
I can. Yes, you are still coming.
Okay, just making sure. I was cutting in and out with you, so I just got to play this real quick. Mateo Gil and Mr. Kloffenstein. Yeah, you better believe it, buddy.
And when we talk about Mateo Gil, we don't mean the guy who directed Vanilla Sky or wrote Vanilla Sky. I'm not sure. He maybe did both. Just to throw something out from way back when.
Is Mateo Gil the guy that wrote Vanilla Sky?
Yeah, I mean, I know that guy either he wrote or maybe he directed the Spanish version, the Abre los Ojos. I mean, I know we're getting way off task, but if you look up Mateo Gil, having recently spent some time researching him, you're going to find the director/writer of. He at least wrote Vanilla Sky. I'm not sure if he also directed it.
See, but movie knowledge, baseball knowledge, we're all over the board, man.
We're bringing it all to you. So, but on that note, why don't we, we each talked about 3 prep guys. Why don't we switch to the college ranks and bring up some of our favorite guys who aren't, the Seth Beers, the Griffin Conines, Casey Mize, the Brady Singers, who, are kind of the names you're seeing a lot. Ryan Rolson. I won't bring up Tristan Pompey in spite of my love for him in a purely plutonic way, because he's gotten some run up there as well. So, but let's I know we both spend a lot of time on these hitting the kind of the lesser colleges hitting the ones near us. So in some ways, we have a leg up on others who maybe are focused more on those the bigger schools with the guys who are well known, or just guys who've gotten our eyes over the past 2-3 years.
Well, Jeff, I mean, there's two guys that we both brought up when we first initially were talking about this. And it's Connor Pilkington, the lefty out of Mississippi State, and Jeremy Ironman, the shortstop out of Missouri State. But I feel that both of those guys are guys that could sneak into the top 10, so I left them out, and I grabbed a few guys. I actually grabbed basically the Stanford weekend rotation between Tristan Beck, who I feel like we've talked about Tristan Beck for the last 3 years. Corona High School, I loved him then. I said he'd be the number 1 pick years later, and if it wasn't for injuries last year, we really wouldn't know what was going on with Tristan Beck. This year, coming back as a junior, healthy, I am 100% in on Tristan Beck. But the guy that's pitching right with him, his name is Chris Bubick, a lefty, works 90, can get up almost to 95 range, wicked changeup, wicked curveball. I love this kid. Chris Bubick is probably, just those 2 Stanford arms. Those are going to be 2 of my 3 that I'm going to talk about. But I'm really excited to see what both of those guys do this year.
And just to piggyback on that real quick, it's something to point out, I think, is the success of players who have gone to the Cape and led the Cape in strikeouts. The last 2 years, we've seen Eric Lauer, who went from, he was known, but he was probably viewed more as like a second-day pick than a first-day pick, and he ended up in the first round. And then last year, or 2 years ago, I should say, Zach Lothar, another lefty from an Ohio school, this time Xavier, ended up going at the competition B round after he led the Cape in strikeouts. So we've seen this high level of success from pitchers like Bubick, who have led the Cape in strikeouts, and then the next year kind of used that to take a step forward. So just wanted to piggyback on you for a bit. One of the guys I want to talk about out of the gate is John Aiello, who I don't think is getting much talk. There are reasons for that. I'll start with the positive. Aiello's kind of been on the he's been on the radar since high school. Pennsylvania bat. He had some first round talk. Didn't have the best senior year. Didn't have a bad senior year. Just didn't really step up. It can be hard for the Pennsylvania bats just because if it's a bad winter, which it was in 2015, they don't get to play as many games. There's not as many opportunities to get scouted. Aiello, I believe, firmly can stick at third base. He's a switch hitter, and last year he hit 20 home runs at Wake. That Wake lineup was absolutely loaded, but he hit 20 home runs. He had a BABIP over 400, which often at this level shows a player with good contact skills. He did strike out a ton, at 76 times, which is, that's a little short of a third of his at-bats, and that is a concern. He didn't walk a lot, which the imbalance there is something that does bother me. Looking forward to seeing what he can do this year, but just the power, the position, the fact that he's been, he's a known name, and when I see the BABIP it shows a guy with more ability than he's getting talked up right now. I don't really see him listed anywhere. The other thing with him is, we do know that Wake is a huge hitter's park, so we do know there's a degree of inflation there, but at the same time, he's been highly productive, and I also thought it was interesting that he got hit by 13 pitches. That doesn't necessarily make him Brandon Guyer. College pitchers or even the best, you're going to see like a hit batter or a wild pitch or something in that box score. It's always, the control isn't quite there, but 13 is still pretty high. So he's also going to find other ways to get on base. He only walked 25 times, and he was hit by 13 pitches. So when you're hit by a pitch, it's half of your walk total. It says a little thing about both of those totals.
I honestly, I think you were telling me about him the other day when we were talking, and I vaguely remember him, but these are guys that you're going to see that I'm not necessarily going to see, and it's kind of exciting. One kid that I'm really pumped about to see is Colton Eastman. I think he's here from Cal State Fullerton, which has a great program. Obviously, last year the 2 big arms, Connor Siebold and John Gavin. Colton Eastman was supposed to kind of take over that spot from Siebold, and he had a few injuries, but struck out 37 over 33 innings last year. ERA down near 2. Hardly walked anybody, typical of a Fullerton pitcher. And I'm not going to announce where I necessarily got this data from, but his curveball had a spin rate over 3,200 RPMs. I mean, he really gets a tight curve going for him. One of those guys I'm really excited about to see how he develops his changeup. Fastball it's a very standard Fullerton fastball is what I think you could call it. He sits 91, 92. He can get up in a higher register, but 91, 92 with a lot of sink. Very typical Fullerton arm, but one of those guys that I think could break through and possibly be a teen pick, depending on how he performs a little bit.
No, definitely. He's one of those. I think like a year ago at this time, I kind of liked him more than, God, why am I blanking on their ace from last year who got drafted high?
Connor Siebold.
Siebold, yeah. So I kind of like Eastman more at that point. So I'm looking forward to that. As tempting as it is to go with Adam Hill is my next guy, just because, you know, how much I was a fan of Adam Hill last year. And this Adam Hill is a pitcher at South Carolina, and I was all over those South Carolina arms the last 2 years. I'm instead going to go with a guy that when you were looking through the list I sent you, you were like, I don't think he's draft eligible. And I go, well, I have him on the list. He must be. And we went and looked it up, and he is. And that's Zach Lingenfelter from Tennessee. Ryan Rolson gets a lot of run as a draft eligible sophomore as well. He should. But Lingenfelter is not a guy to look past. His performance, limited innings last year, was solid. It wasn't like great or anything like that, but you're seeing a 6'5" right-hander, draft eligible sophomore. He's not going to have as much wear and tear as some of the other kids because this will be his first full season. He only started 6 games a year ago and then spent the first 16 working out of the pen. He's a guy who we talked about in kind of those top 10 prep arms for the 2016 draft. So to go to the SEC, which, you know, football debates aside, in baseball, there's no doubt that is a top conference. Step in and perform well says a lot for him. And the numbers aren't drastically different from Ryan Rolson. Now, Rolson, I do like better. He's a better athlete. He's left-handed. Those are all bonuses. But Lingenfelter's a bit of a forgotten guy right now. He's one of those guys that you're going to notice this common line with me with these guys. Someone that we've known and followed for years and was a successful prep player. And that's what I see here.
And Jeff, when I saw that name on the list, I got so excited. And it's because Zach Lingenfelter is like the dream sensation draft pick. 6'5", 200 plus pounds, like 210, I think. He throws from a really high arm slot, gets a lot of playing on this fastball that's like 94, 95. The changeup actually really has developed past what was expected. I remember this kid in high school, and I said, why are teams not doing it? And obviously it was because he was heading to school and everything. But, man, I was high on Zach Lingenfelter, what was that, a year ago, 2 years ago? And so he's a sophomore, so yeah. 2 years ago. I mean, Zach Lingenfelter's the guy for me, aside from Connor Pilkington, who we will save another podcast for.
No, I mean, it's like I said, we sometimes just guys slip through the cracks or what have you, but in this case, he's just, you know, my list is quite long. I'm not going to lie. I went through and when I sent it to you, it's like 3 pages of 2 columns, 11 single-space names. So I wouldn't be surprised if I had included someone who wasn't draft eligible, just because I'm going through and compiling so much information. But he's a guy to watch. Since I kind of have the mic right now, I'll just jump in on my last guy. And I will.
Please do. Please.
I'll stick to local again. Push my Ohio players, and I was talking about this guy right before I went online, and it's Joey Murray of Kent State. I was telling Taylor I have this bad tendency to want to call him Joel Murray because I'm just not used to Joey's at past like the age of 13 or 14. So, but Joey Murray has earned the right to call himself whatever he wants to call himself. Because last year he was one of the top 5 pitchers in strikeout total and in strikeout rate in the NCAA as a sophomore. Again, it is in the MAC. It is he's facing a lot of very weak lineups, which do allow huge inflation of strikeout rates. And I saw him pitch towards the end of the year, and he's not a big guy. He's only a 6'2" right-hander. So he technically, to some, be considered undersized. And he was starting to wear down at the end of last year. His velocity in the games I saw was more high 80s, touching low 90s. I had reports from people earlier in the year where he was up to 93, 94. So we'll have to see. But he was unhittable and for the last 2 years and just striking out guys at an extremely high rate. He did that as a freshman as well in limited innings. Kent is in an interesting position. I don't know what they're going to do in their rotation. Murray was the Sunday starter for them a year ago, and the Zach Wildman was their Saturday, who the Dodgers drafted and signed. Who I was just going through his data. I didn't realize they drafted him out of high school as well, so the Dodgers must have liked him a lot to kind of revisit and get him. So, but Eli Krause, their Friday starter, is a senior, went undrafted this year, or is a senior this year, went undrafted as well. So I don't know if they'll bump up Murray to Friday, because I mean he is their top prospect in terms of pitchers. If they'll move Krause back, if they feel like they can do that to a guy. And then they've got a few other arms that they could slot into the Sunday spot. But, you know, he's not a big guy. He's a small school. But Kent has a good reputation. They had 4 players drafted and signed last year, maybe 5. Mike Birkbeck, the pitching coach there, is highly respected in the industry. You want to go to Kent State. You know, the state of Ohio, for those who don't know, Vandy, Kentucky, and Louisville pretty much carve up the state. Probably in order right now, Vandy, then Louisville, then Kentucky. And whoever's left, Ohio State and Kent kind of fight over, with a few guys still going to like SEC schools. So, you know, but it's really developed this name as a pitching place. So I'm kind of curious to see what Murray can do this year, if he can build on that. I could go for several other names on the list. I'm sure I'll get a chance to talk to throughout this year. But it's I think what makes it a fun class is just as I was throwing names out here, talking with you about this list, you know, kind of more under the radar guys that are even more under the radar. Guys like Tristan English, who you and I liked as a pitcher in high school and has basically been a bat at Georgia Tech, or Daniel Reyes, who just transferred into Miami. Alonzo Jones and Caden Grenier, who were pretty big name draft prospects when they were high schoolers. Both that there's all of these names. This Friday, I'm going to catch fall ball from Missouri State. I sadly missed their pro day out here, but you know, that's a chance to maybe see Bryce Montes de Oca, who got that extra year of eligibility. Their center fielder Cameron Meisner is someone to know for 2019. Trey Davis, I saw get a lot of run this summer. I read about him a lot last year. He was their top hitter a year ago. Didn't get drafted. Kind of that Kirby Puckett body, but signed of the same athleticism. So kind of, you know, he'd be labeled a bad body. It's a round body, but he's a good athlete. You know, I always think it's kind of dumb when they label players that way, but I know played well this summer. So, you know, I will get out Brett Bond, the catcher, see some of those guys, but it's a fun class. It's a deep class. And I feel like a bit of a crazy person right now, but I realized that I didn't even mention maybe my favorite player that comes up every time we talk about college guys. The undersized outfielder from South Carolina, Carlos Cortez, which you can hear by Taylor's laughing how much I talk about Carlos Cortez. I have not gotten any paperwork for a restraining order. I was really high on him out of high school. I said he was the number 2 prep bat in that class in terms of current hit tool. And I mean, he's gone to South Carolina and hit. He had no position in high school. I mean, that was the thing. It's like, where do you play him? He's a left fielder all the way. You can't play him anywhere but left field or DH. Maybe, I mean, he would be the world's smallest first baseman, but he hits. He hits and he hits for power, and he's got an eye at the plate. And he's small. He's like Nick Madrigal. He's undersized, but I mean, look at major league. Look at the playoffs this year. Jose Altuve, Jose Ramirez. I don't even think Didi Gregorius, who's already homered tonight, is that big. You just got to look at what you can do with loft and the bat and just plain hit tools. So don't sleep on Carlos Cortez. Sorry, I had to slide him in there as well.
I figured. I was waiting for it too. Oh man. Well, Jeff, when we planned this a few days ago, we said we'd do just a quick half hour, just chat a little bit about just guys that we like and things like that. And for you guys listening in, this is kind of what Jeff and I do. We sit there and talk to each other and kind of laugh at each other about who we like, who we don't necessarily like as much, and that's how we kind of come up with our boards, our things like that. So we're just kind of giving you a little bit of a sneak peek into what we do. We have a lot of fun. Jeff, I've got a song ready, so when you want to close out, let me know. I'll do my closeout. You guys are more than welcome to read us at scoutingbaseball.com. We're really excited about what we have coming for the winter. Top 100 MLB prospects. We're still wrapping up a few things with the top 10 of each organization. That's on me. That's my fault. We're just pushing a lot of things. Jeff, congratulations on the baby. Really exciting. Give her a big old hug for me. My fiance the other day, she asked me, she says, "How's Jeff doing?" And I said, "Jeff, like my brother-in-law?" She's like, "No, Jeff, the guy you work with." And I said, "Oh no." So Jeff, you're my wife away from my fiance, and I can't wait for the winter, buddy. I hope you guys have a great time listening in, checking out the rest of baseball. We're gonna have probably, I'm sure, another podcast here soon. You can follow me on Twitter at Taylor Blake Ward. Jeff, take it away, buddy. I hope you have a good time, and I've got a song ready whenever you want to.
Okay. You can follow me on Twitter as well at Jeff MLB Draft. Comment on the video. We love to hear what you liked, what you didn't like. If you liked this kind of off the cuff look behind the curtain, or if you want to see things a little more organized. As well, it's also great for us. We're going to try to do this more regularly. I know I say that every podcast, but we have a system. I have everything in place. This will be more regular this year. So please rate and review, because if you rate and review on iTunes, that'll help bump us up, get us more eyes. And honestly, we're human beings. So the more people who we know are downloading, the more incentive we have to come and give you this free information. So if you want more, a review is a great way to help us out. It doesn't cost you anything other than your time. So thanks again for listening. So,
go ahead, buddy.
No, that's it.
That lead guitar is hot, but not for Louisiana man. So rosin up that both faded love, and let's all dance. If you're gonna play in Texas, you gotta have a fiddle in the band.